What's up, everyone? This is my second attempt to do a video because my horses were like trying to open my front door, but I digress. Let's talk about supplements on a carnivore diet because, as you know, I cover low carb, high diet, low carb, high fat dietary measures, including keto, omnivore, and carnivore, and of course, low carb, high fat. But because carnivore is trending, let's get to it. Now, supplements, they have their place. But 9 times out of 10 with my clients, I just try to get them to do supplements for one cycle. That's either 6 weeks, 4 weeks, and max 3 months. The point is to use them and then get off. A lot of naturopathic doctors will have you do supplements after supplements after supplements. They don't check to see how your gut wall integrity is, if you crystallize these vitamins, and don't even get me started on people who are going to the store and taking multivitamins. The problem is that a lot of you have a leaky gut. And when you have a leaky gut and you've got poor motility, often your body is not using this vitamin that you're consuming, right? So you're consuming it, the body's not utilizing it, and then it's just increasing in the bloodstream and can get to toxic levels. Also, often with multivitamins, particularly, especially the fat soluble ones, they can crystallize in and vitamin D, my people, they can crystallize in your small intestine, thus becoming more toxic. That's why they always say that sometimes multivitamins are just expensive pee because you don't use them often. The problem is a lot of people may not need certain B vitamins or may not need certain types of minerals. They'll dominate on one, right? They get out of balance. The body's not using that and it becomes too high in the bloodstream, thus becoming toxic. I talk to a lot of people who still believe that synthetic multivitamins are good. You're never going to get the benefits from these fat soluble or water soluble, because remember, fat soluble vitamins, they can stay, they can crystallize, they lodge within the fat cells, they can be very toxic if your body's not utilizing them, whereas the water soluble vitamins can go out of you more easily. But even people develop toxicity to water soluble vitamins. A lot of people do like a B complex and still can develop toxicity to even your Bs. Even if you're consuming water soluble vitamins, as long as they are synthetic. And that goes all the way down the line to thyroid medications, hormones, anything for the thyroid, anything for the reproductive system. If you feel that you have to take it, you always want to go the natural route. And then you got to make sure that you are not don't need anything more. Some people will develop diseases and issues from too high levels of B6 or vitamin D toxicity, vitaminosis. So let's get into it. I'd love to talk about, the benefits of vitamins because there are some benefits, but right now I want to warn you guys to be very careful on a carnivore diet. People who are eating a lot of freaking meat and may not understand that after eating a lot of meat and you develop, let's say, a B6 toxicity, you can really injure yourself by consuming more meat if your B6 levels are too high. And that goes for anything. Let's check it out. So I was watching and doing my research. You guys know I'm running a challenge, so I'm trying to find ways to take the best information, take my experience with clients, and put it in a sort of cliff notes for carnivore or keto or low carb, high fat, so you don't injure yourself and have some success at healing the body or dropping the body fat weight or dealing with the disease or infertility. So let's get into it.
Paradox is that these are a lot of the same symptoms of B6 toxicity, and we'll talk about why. The issue is that if there's too much of it, it blocks the body from converting any. So that's why too much can look like too little. People can get.
Do you guys understand that? Sometimes when you're taking synthetic vitamins or even with your magnesium or your minerals, you can have a blockage of your own production or utilization of it, which is what I was trying to explain before. And then you're having toxic high levels because some people will have too high iron, too high B6. Sometimes they'll have too much potassium in their bloodstream and they can't figure out why.
Deficient in B6, if they're just low in protein overall, if they've got a high alcohol intake, or if they have malabsorption. So we can see that with thyrogastric syndrome, where there's the autoimmune attack against the gut. Celiac.
So pretty much, the gut plays a big role on why people, particularly on carnivore, they are doing carnivore diets and eating a lot of red meat. But what you don't understand is some people just cannot handle certain. You have to make sure that your B's are not too high. If you're taking multivitamins, burn them, right? Because sometimes B6 will not be utilized and the symptoms are awful. That means if you have a B6 toxicity, all of a sudden you can't eat red meat anymore. So if you got an iron deficiency, right? This is what happened to a client this morning. She had a B6 toxicity trying to heal something else. And this even goes with your multivitamins. It doesn't even have to be with just taking a B complex. She's taking these supplements to heal another ailment. And now she has vitaminosis of too high levels of B6. And so now when she tries to eat red meat to combat her low iron, she feels sick, tingly fingers, and it's just dangerous. It's just really, really dangerous to not understand the toxic levels of some of these supplements. So vitamin D is another great example of people developing toxicity from vitamin D. You should already know your vitamin D status already. You don't may not need vitamin D, and the actual synthetic version, again, sometimes it's not very absorbable. And what happens with the vitamin D is that it can crystallize in the small intestine and not be used or create a toxic effect to your biliary duct system, including your kidneys. This is the reason why I'm like, don't run towards the vitamin D. I don't know how many clients I have are taking vitamin D. Do you need to take vitamin D? If you have a hard time absorbing vitamin D or getting enough, not absorbing, let's just put it in this context. If it's the winter time and you can't get outside and your diet is not having enough vitamin D in it, then you might want to get a Sperti. I've said this before, SPERTI. These are vitamin UVA and UVB vitamin D3 lamps. They're super effective. Instead of putting your kids and yourself, especially if brown skin, on these freaking nasty ass synthetic vitamin D supplementation. Too much of it can create a toxicity. And that also goes for your vitamin A. If people ask me, how much liver, how much liver, how much liver? You can eat as much liver as you want as long as you don't have any issues converting using the vitamin A, the retinol. That's a problem, right? It's this converting into a usable form that's going to go into the cells. So if you're taking vitamin A on the skin, if you've done Accutane for acne, be very, very, if you're taking a multivitamin, which is the reason why a lot of you people develop any type of vitamin A toxicity, it's not from the liver. Typically, it's from the multivitamin that you're taking that even in small amounts can be toxic and create a toxic vitaminosis in your body, right? Otherwise, there is no like, oh, I'm on a carnivore diet, I need to take a supplement. You only need to take a supplement if you're having issues like for the gallbladder, for example. You guys know I talk about ox bile salts, right? This woman couldn't take it because she said that some people have a really bad reaction to oral bile, right? The bile from a gallbladder when you're getting it from a cow, right? An exogenous form of bile salts, people will have literally a complete off reaction to them. So you got to test it and find out. Um, you also have to, if people are taking thyroid medications, often your blood sugar tends to spike on any SSRI, serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Garbage. Please don't be on those. Try to go off slowly. A lot of you guys are on that. A lot of you guys are on proton pump inhibitors. You guys are on omeprazole and Zyrtec. All of these things can be toxic in high amounts because if you don't feel well, you always take more, right? And the first 100 times you did it, you didn't feel better. After a while, you get a toxic buildup, and then boom, you start to develop weird issues where, you can't, it takes like over a year for your body to get out of, like, let's say, B6 toxicity zone, even if you're not eating meat, even if you're not eating meat high in B6. We have to be careful, my people, when we're doing these diets. It's not that the standard American diet is better, but it's the fact that people tend to eat too many mono meats, like ground beef and ribeyes, on a carnivore diet, and they're not factoring anything else. They're not factoring if they can poop out, if they can poop. They're not factoring in by checking their uric acid levels to make sure that eating all that meat, because a lot of people are supposed to be eating a high fat diet and making it ketogenic, and instead they're doing high protein on carnivore because they heard to do that. Don't do that. Do not do that. Your body may not be well equipped to be able to go and eat, even for they're having women are eating up to a pound of beef, right? What if you can't tolerate any more B6? What if you have an iron issue, right? And a lot of people are like, what do I do? I've got an iron issue, an iron load, and people are presenting hemochromatosis symptoms. And that is so dangerous on carnivore that people are eating ribeyes with hemochromatosis. You got to go to the blood bank and like get down that iron, because when your iron levels are too high, it's incredibly toxic to the body. And these are risks that you find by eating too much protein, especially the red meat. For those issues, who have a propensity for like MTHFR, hemochromatosis, B6 toxicity. And because everybody's so fracked up and have leaky gut, and I mean, everybody's jacked up. Often people say, but why, why is it me and everybody else does not like have these issues? I'm like, trust me, everybody has an issue. They just don't talk about it, or they're not aware of what that issue is. And so it just looks like they're fine, but they are not fine. Most people are struggling with gut wall integrity. That's the main issue. Because if you can't absorb and convert any of these supplements into a usable form into the cells to be used, they can become toxic, right? If they crystallize in your small intestine, they can be toxic. And then the meat that you eat after this affectation, after this inability to absorb B6, now when you, because you took too many multivitamins, now when you eat red meat, you get sick. So if you're doing a carnivore diet, eating a bunch of red meat, and you have a B6 problem, and you don't even know it, you're like, oh, why are my fingertips, why are they feeling tingly? There are so many symptoms people are not aware of. You guys know I've talked about the vertigo symptoms from low potassium. Low potassium is like out of control on carnivore, out of control. And that's why I do these videos, because I want to show you guys, look at your symptomology, pay no attention that somebody else said that they lost 60 pounds and it was great, and you only hear the good news. That's the way the internet works. That's the way the world works today. Everything's hyperbole. Everything's exaggerated to the umpteenth degree. Nobody talks about the difficulties of anything because it doesn't get as many clicks or views. If you don't believe me, I've been around for over 10 years talking the same stuff to tell people to be careful. And I've been around longer than most of these people, but still have lower numbers because I just won't go to the dark side. I can't. It's more fun to have people have success and feel better. And when you're around people who feel better, you feel better, right? If they're in a good mood, I feel like I'm in a good mood. If I'm doing a live stream and people are like, hey, I did these 5 things that you recommended, and now I've improved on some of these illnesses, it is like reward beyond measure. It's the best Christmas present you can ever get, because right now the world's so weird. It is just so incredible to be able to share positive physical experiences with people on a low carb, high fat diet. But we've got to know what we're doing, because anytime you switch your diet in a major way, it doesn't matter if you're doing ice bath, or if you're doing coffee that you never did before, the coffee enemas, or if you're fasting. If you guys are fasting, stop. Okay, it's weakening your gut wall. This whole process of gluconeogenesis, I need to go over that again in another video so you guys understand that if you're trying to absorb these vitamins and minerals and you keep putting stress and going down the cortisol pathway, and you're putting stress on the gut wall, you're not going to heal. People always think that they can do carnivore and heal. Can I cure cancer? Can I cure a pimple? Can I do this? Can I do that on carnivore? And people did the same thing on keto. You guys know I've been pushing keto for bazillion years. I ride the line of carnivore. I don't eat a lot of plants, not at all. Mostly I have avocado for the potassium benefits. And even potassium, you guys got to know your potassium status. And you have to understand how to measure your potassium throughout the day because the numbers change from morning to evening. So even if you go to the doctor, and some people are emailing me their test results, which I really don't like, you can see that they're presenting low potassium symptoms, but their potassium numbers are in range. For example, and I'm like, what time was your blood test done to actually be objective on understanding your potassium levels, which are very important to watch sodium potassium levels on a carnivore diet over time. Now, some people will do carnivore or keto or low, even low carb, high fat for a year or two, feel fine, and out of nowhere, things start happening. And that's typically how it works. It's not like you're going to do this diet and things happen like overnight unless you already have an immune system that's crumbling a little bit. If you already have too much cortisol in your lifestyle, right, which can be very inflammatory. If you don't sleep enough, and then over time you do great, and all of a sudden things start being weird, and you're not as successful. It's because people are rushing too quickly wanting to do this diet. It's very dogmatic. People become very religious about a carnivore diet. And sometimes you have to go off of it. Sometimes you have to go to a low carb, high fat diet. And the solution isn't to run to a supplement because you feel bad. You have to be very, very conscious because, like I said, some people will do a bile salt and they feel sick, right? So you got to be very careful. You got to start off with like half a dosage and make sure you're not having this dump of a bile response when you're doing a ox bile. Some people have the opposite reaction where they feel really, really sick on ox bile. Most people do really, really great. Do you take betaine HCl? Well, it's made from rice. So some people have a histamine reaction to it. And so we have to be very, very careful. And some people don't, and they do amazing on betaine HCl when it comes to digesting foods, protease, lipase, fats. All of this is why people are they're having like heartburn, and so it helps with heartburn. Some people will just go and do apple cider vinegar or lemon water, and then they don't need that supplement. But stick around. All of this stuff is going to go into my course. And like I've expressed many times, I want to create sort of a simplified version so you guys, when you get the information, it's so easy to follow, but it hits every major point where you're digging. And I was like, wow, my client today had a B6 toxicity, and it's more common than you realize. And if you've got B6 absorption and conversion issues, and you do carnivore and don't know that you've got this issue, you can literally frack your body up pretty bad. So be careful out there, my people. Do not rush into any of these diets. Do not believe everyone who says that just eat a ton of meat and you're going to see magic and miracles and tons of weight loss, because everyone is different and everybody's a different responder to everything. We start off very similar when we're born, and then we start branching out different ways depending on if we're breastfed or vaginally birthed or had antibiotics or on SSRIs, on high blood pressure medications. Like, these medications destroy your body. You've also got to know your liver enzymes to make sure that they're not raised, they don't have a thick liver that's not able to convert a lot of these vitamins. Yes, know your AST and ALT liver enzyme profile. So when you're doing carnivore and find yourself feeling sick for any reason, that you can start putting those puzzle pieces together, figuring it out, and protecting your health. If you guys want to sign up for a consultation, my calendar is wide open. If you're struggling, I'm your girl. I'm not going to BS you with a bunch of ridiculous nonsense lies. I'm going to talk to you. We're going to talk. We're gonna get it, and stay patient for the release date of the signups. They're not ready yet because I'm still working on this, and at the same time working on a house build, and at least trying to draw the house plan, and trying to find contractors way before I can actually even afford doing such a thing. Um, and of course, taking care of my animals and consulting people and running a course. So I also run a course. I have course lessons 5 days a week. So that's to sign up through stephanieperson.com. You can also go to my Instagram, which is Stephanie Ketogenic, where I'm often posting a lot more daily content, and it's just been very interesting to learn about the toxins that are put in our spices, in our supplements, in our multivitamins. Yeah, the synthetic stuff is not a good idea, people, unless you're in an emergency. Try to get your vitamin C from real food as well. And that's why liver is so great. But in this context, my client could not do liver because she had a problem with B6, which is a tragedy because now she's not getting the zinc and the selenium and the amazing fat soluble vitamin profile, the vitamin A, and the iron that she needed for her ferritin levels. But it's a process. We came up with a strategy. So if you guys need a consultation and you've got some weird thing going on like she did, I'm your girl. I'm not going to BS you. And I'm out. Energy! Even though I'll push my body right to that edge. And if you push your body beyond that, things start falling apart. Nothing works. Be careful for the cortisol pathway. My Instagram is Stephanie, the business person. My ass is 55, going on 56. And I'm out. Life is freaking good because it's so beautiful. Even though they are trying to fuck up the world, it's still beautiful. Peace.